Because we can't have nice things, the GOP infighting continues in the House. A dozen Republicans sent a warning letter to Speaker Johnson saying that they will not support a reconciliation bill that includes cuts to Medicaid. Now, at this rate, will we have a bill passed by Memorial Day? Senior politics editor Chris Bedford joins us now. So, Chris, when we look at this, is the House actually trying to eat itself alive, or is this just how things are done in D.C.?
It's kind of both. Can I say both on that matter? I
Sure.
think the way things are done is a lot of circular firing squads and eating their own. But at the end of the day, different congressmen come from different districts with different voter backgrounds and different needs. And some of those congressmen are going to be more responsive to liberal voters, less able to be Chip Roys on these sorts of matter. That's not the only big negotiation which is going on right now. And I do think it's all part of a negotiation, more of a warning shot than a "we will not work with you on this" sort of thing. There's another group of congressmen who basically said they need massive SALT allowances, and that's the state and local tax allowance that basically makes it so that when the state of New York, state of Connecticut, state of wherever else taxes you into oblivion, and the town you live in taxes into oblivion, you can write it off of your federal taxes. Well, that's been kind of a no-go for a lot of Republicans who are sick of subsidizing a lot of these blue states. But it's really important to those blue state Republicans who have those voters who are getting taxed into oblivion by their local Democrat governance. I mean, there was one congresswoman who went out there earlier this week and said that her simple demand is that you should be able to write off up to $100,000 in state and local taxes off of your federal taxes. Now, I look at that and think, if you've got $100,000 you're paying in state and local taxes, you're probably doing just fine. This is not exactly the representation and the needs of the working poor in America. But here's the good news for those people who want to kind of push through this, is that there's, generally speaking, no bigger wimp than a moderate Republican. Now, that swings both ways. It can be annoying in how easily bullied they are and how they are fighting as hard as they are right now for Medicaid, and how they're going to fight for these SALT taxes. At the end of the day, they derive their power from their closeness to Republican leadership. So if Republican leadership whispers no and barrels ahead, they almost without fail will break.
Just real quick on the Medicaid thing. Do we know what the hell is really going on here? Because on the one hand, we have Trump saying he's not going to touch it. I don't think it's directly affected anyway. Johnson sending emails saying, hey, we're going to make it stronger. And yet we also have people complaining. I mean, can you break that down?
It's murky. It's because everyone's saying different things. You have President Trump saying it's not going to get touched. You have conservative fiscal hawks saying it needs to absolutely get touched. And you have Mike Johnson, who says yes to everyone in town. That's one of the reasons he's such a bad negotiator.
Even the Democrats.
Even the Democrats. It's one of the reasons why he's generally his most successful negotiations, despite the claims of his social media teams, have been executed by other people without his input, without his help, and because he's generally speaking a hindrance to a lot of these actual deals getting accomplished and getting done. The way I've been able to piece it together, because again, it's still all behind closed doors negotiations, is what they are looking at is where the fraud is rampant, where there are abuses of the Medicaid system, where this is something the federal government ought to make more efficient, bring some of that government efficiency to bear. And even that alone can be too much for some of these Republicans who basically have to maintain Democratic concerns when it comes to programs like this.
Well, I opened up the old X account this morning and I saw Axios had a piece that they put out that said that people with autism seek dignity where RFK seeks a cure. Now, I saw Chris Bedford, you right here, you responded and said if a Trump appointee healed the blind, they would try to stone him. So I immediately liked it, of course, naturally, as this is the kind of content that I'm here for, Chris. But what's your take on this latest argument against RFK Jr.?
Well, you click on the author's profile. She graduated like 2 years from journalism school. She's got a little Salvadorian flag in her biography, although she may have some Salvadorian lineage. I'm not sure. She was part of an Hispanic club in college, I suppose. She's got her pronouns in her biography. And now you've got now you've got RFK Jr. trying to get to the root causes of autism, which is a difficult situation and a worry, I can tell you, of every single parent of young kids that I know. Now, of course, that's not to disparage people with autism. Some of my best friends are on the spectrum. I mean, we work in conservative media here. I think half of everyone we know is on the spectrum, and they're intelligent and interesting and bring a lot of different skills to this. But that's not the only kind of autism. Those are just the people that you meet and interact with, and they lack that emotional depth. It is a handicap. It gets them in trouble sometimes. There are other people who I know who have to take their kids out of different schools they're in to try and find them the resources they need. Levels of autism so bad that children are nonverbal, that they don't walk correctly, that they will never communicate correctly, that they will have extreme difficulty ever holding down any kind of a job that allows for a prosperous family, at least. People who have extreme difficulty keeping their clothes on and other different issues that impact these families. And Axios is trying to say, why are you trying to cure it? Why are you treating these people without dignity? That's insane. Trying to cure disease is not, and trying to cure an ailment and something that's a handicap is not treating the people who have it without dignity. In fact, refusing to look into the science and the different factors that have been introduced into our environment over the last 50 years and 20 years in particular that have made the rates of autism absolutely skyrocket in this country and not really around the world, as far as I can tell. That's something that's worth investigating. And if you care about this and you care about your kids, you'd want to investigate. But I mean, Donald Trump couldn't cure cancer without somebody saying, well, what about the people with cancer? Why don't we just try to make life better and more dignified for people with cancer? Well, of course we do. We want to cure it. And it's just funny to see this going into Easter weekend, which is why I made that joke where tomorrow is Good Friday, the day that Christ was crucified on the cross. And one of the things that ticked off the rulers so much was how dare he go around. He's saying things he didn't like, and the people loved him because he was healing. Now, I'm not comparing RFK or Donald Trump to Jesus Christ, but this shows you just the level of demented of some of his critics.
Yeah. The crazy thing about this is how much it's media driven when you have anytime you mention the word autism, basically. If you mention the word autism, what happens is that
he has a phone.
I'm going to answer the phone here right now. They're calling me right now about autism.
No, they're
It's a
trying to get
crazy
you
thing.
to stop.
You remind me of the phrase, by the way, I always use, which is, my challenge is to manage a healthy mix of Chads and autistic people. That's always been, that's always been my mission. But how much is this media driven? Because they scare the hell out of people for mentioning, right, autism, because if you put the vaccines near that sentence, right, you've committed a thought crime. And that's sort of insane in itself, right? And so this seems to me to be mostly media driven, but maybe I don't fully understand how much funding, right, is involved in keeping the status quo what it is, as a way to try to say that just RFK is crazy. Is that too simplistic?
I think that's probably right. I don't think there's any mass movement out there to say don't try to figure out autism. I don't think there is at all. I think the autism issue, as well as the incredible rise in obesity, despite no changes really in the American exercise habits. In fact, we work out harder than a lot of people did in previous generations. These are different kind of uncomfortable questions where you have to look around at our environments and our corporate environments and the things that are being put in our food and the pesticides that are being put on the plants, even if you make your food from scratch at home. These are things that RFK is looking at. And among them is also their vaccine regimen. And I remember during COVID, the latest reporter joins a long list of people who have no, as far as I can tell, discernible expertise in any field other than being recent college graduates, who won't allow people to have completely normal and standard ideas that question some kind of scientific mantra that they were taught without them actually flipping out and saying, you're not an expert, you're not an expert, you're not allowed to talk about this. They've completely sacrificed any kind of actual moral high ground that they ever had because they're just so terrified of people asking questions. And a lot of those questions turned out to be right. But you know that this will start to change, just like it did with the lab leak theory and other things. What we need is a year after RFK gets dragged through the mud, 2 years after Blaze News and the Federalist and other places get blacklisted and de-advertised, we need brave old Jon Stewart to come out and make a joke about how obvious the correlation is before everyone can breathe a sigh of relief and say, okay, now we all agree on this sort of interesting thing. Now it's worth investigating. Because that seems to be the way that questioning scientific trends go. We need to wait for the old host of The Daily Show.
Well, people left and right, I don't know, Matthew Peterson, the editor-in-chief never sleeps.
I have a runaway phone. I think one of my kids took my iPad and changed the settings on it, so I can't get it off, and I'm interrupting the interview.
It's incredible, though.
It's crazy.
I love it. It's better than Bedford's cat. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe people still want the cat, by the way. But when it comes to RFK Jr., right, when we looked at all the big hopes that we had for him at the beginning of this administration, some people were a little upset because he wasn't doing the huge things right out of the gate, right? Okay, well, maybe it's okay, though, for him to go through and get some small wins and build up, right? Like, okay, let's get soda off of food stamps, right? We don't need that in there. That's an easy one. Go ahead and cut it. And then you work up to something like the vaccines and autism and everything else. It's not the thing, though, Chris, that is even expected to be one of the very first things that somebody like an RFK Jr. would tackle at HHS.
I know. I think there's a lot of people who are just really hungry for some vengeance. They're really hungry to see. And sometimes people get a kind of a funny idea about what powers actual different secretaries have. I mean, I remember during the whole Benghazi thing, the amount of times I had to tell different interviewers that the Secretary of State can't order U.S. combat troops into combat in foreign countries we're not at war with was shocking because people do expect a lot of their cabinet secretaries. And some of that's right. I mean, we should expect a lot. And the Trump administration this round has really shown just what an administration that keeps its promises is able to do. But I haven't soured yet on RFK Jr. at all. I don't quite understand the critics. There hasn't been some of the dramatic action that you might expect, but I think that's partially because this is why he's been so successful and so convincing, is he's extremely rigorous in his analysis. He's working on these studies. He's brought together experts across these different fields, which, by the way, is a difficult thing to do. Because for all of the lies that the Democrats tell about big money being on the side of this and big money on the side of that, big money is on the side of status quo. And the status quo is don't question the science. The status quo is global warming is real and it's going to kill us unless we destroy our industry and outsource it all to China. The status quo is got trillions of dollars behind defending it. So finding these right people who've been brave enough to fight against the scientific journals that don't want to publish their work, that won't get the grants from the colleges, that get fired from the universities, that get pushed out of the media, and finding people who are extremely credible and rigorous is going to take work. And then for them to be able to put together a case, which the whole reason I'm having this conversation is because the case is so contentious, to put together a case that actually makes it and tries to figure it out. And we don't know the answers, by the way. If I gave you a feeling that I knew it was vaccines or this or that, I don't. We have no idea exactly what's causing this. We just have a lot of new things that have been introduced to our environment. So you got to be careful with this stuff. And listen, at the end of a couple of years, when RFK leaves office, he may have not accomplished any of the things that he had hoped to against a bureaucratic juggernaut. But I don't think there's any reason yet, just in the first springtime of the second administration, to doubt that something will get done.
Well, on that note, with the administration and the cabinet level people there, we're so early into this Trump administration. How do you go through and view this? Now that the newness has kind of worn off and we're just kind of in the day-to-day now, how do you view that here?
Well, it's got hiccups. I mean, the first couple months were so impressive and just barreling straight ahead. And some of the different weak spots, whether it's in media coordination or in your ability to move quickly on corruption in the FBI, have been exposed. And the trade war back and forth and the lack of really clear and concise messaging have been concerning. But the first 100 days of this administration are still the most wild and effective administration in my entire life. The one most effective administration I could think of since Franklin Delano Roosevelt's first 100 days in office. The incredible things that this president has actually been able to pull off and his team have pulled off. And the great thing that exists in this second term that didn't exist in the first term. By this point in the first term, by the way, we're going through cabinet secretaries, firing people, firing chiefs of staff, firing comms people. It was a disaster. There were leaks and leaks and leaks. Is that this time, all of the fundamentals are there. The team seems to be aligned. Even Republicans who a couple of years ago wouldn't be caught dead working for this administration seem to be at least mouthing all the right things and in agreement. They're excited. They're on the winning side, and now they're willing to fight for it. They realize that the American people back them. They're willing to go for it. And the Republican opposition and Democrat opposition is in complete and total disarray. So this, I would say it is a resounding success. But of course, after that initial honeymoon period, you start to notice some things about people, even those people you love dearly.